Hey, welcome back, everybody. Bougie 86 here, and It Came from the 80s. The film I got for you guys today is a film from 1983. It's produced by Canon Films, which we all know from a series of films that they put out in the 80s, like Over the Top and The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Master of the Universe, Invasion USA. The list goes on. They released a lot of films that we grew to love. Not really great films by any means, but us as film lovers and horror fans and action fans grew to love those films for what they are, the ones they produced. And I've been interested in this film in a while because it's one that eluded me for the longest time. The MGM DVD of this is long out of print, and I wanted to check this film out for a while, and so I eventually picked it up on Blu-ray. And that film, of course, goes by the title of 10 to Midnight. Look at that cover right there. Awesome poster art. This film stars legendary actor Charles Bronson, who we all know from films like The Dirty Dozen and The Magnificent Seven, and of course Death Wish, which Canon Films actually produced pretty much all the Death Wish sequels. It also stars Andrew Stevens, Lisa Ellenbacher, I believe that's how you pronounce her last name, Gene Davis, Jeffrey Lewis, of course, from The Devil's Rejects, and a spew of Clint Eastwood films like Any Which Way But Loose. And, of course, it also stars Wilford Brimley, of course, from John Carpenter's The Thing and Ron Howard's Cocoon. This film is also directed by famous director J. Lee Thompson, who I kind of realized his name, and then I had to look at his filmography to make sure I figured it out and what films he directed. He directed the original Cape Fear, which Martin Scorsese remade. His version, of course, starring Gregory Peck and Robin Mitchum. And he's also known, probably most notably known from us horror fans, for his 1981 film in the slasher genre, Happy Birthday to Me, which starred Glenn Ford. And I was kind of stoked that I found that out when I was watching this film. Like, wow, it kind of has some similarities with the style and shit. Especially if you've seen Cape Fear and Happy Birthday to Me. Kind of on the same level with style and direction. Now, the main plot of this one, we're introduced to Charles Bronson's character. He's a cop, and what happens is there's actually this serial killer going around killing these girls. There's a possibility that he knows who this is when they're doing the investigation. And Charles Bronson's character's daughter, played by Lisa Ellenbacher, gets involved, and the killer starts to target her and the rest of the nurses in her dormitory. So Charles Bronson figures out that he has to stop this guy before he hurts more people. Especially his daughter is involved now, so what he ends up doing is plant evidence on this killer's clothes, and they go to court. And pretty much what happens is he gets off because they find like a negativity that it was fragmented evidence. And then it's pretty much a cat and mouse game between these two for the rest of the film until its climax. That's pretty much the main plot of the film without going way too in depth in the spoilers and the ending of the film. Now, my thoughts on this. This eluded me for a while, and I'm actually a really big Charles Bronson fan, so when I popped this in, I didn't know what to expect. And I gotta say, I actually really had a lot of fun with this film. It's a blast to watch, especially with its 80s atmosphere with this party scene with like this cheesy 80s music playing. Andrew Stevens plays Charles Bronson's partner in the film, Lieutenant Agent McCann. I think Lieutenant McCann. I think it's his name. Yeah, Lieutenant McCann. And he's like by the book, and he finds out what Bronson did and shit, and he actually gets like an attraction to Bronson's daughter during the film, and their characters go back and forth, and they have like wicked good chemistry and scenes together, especially in like this cafeteria scene, which I won't really get into depth in. Now, the killer, he's not like a killer that wears a mask. You see his face from the beginning of the film. He's played by Gene Davis's character, and I gotta say, like when I was looking up this film, and reading like the pamphlet in this release by Twilight Time, it he had like this distinctive look from of Ted Bundy, which they were kind of going for with this film. And he does kind of look like Ted Bundy because I was like skimming through pictures, and I remember watching a lot of like Bundy stuff, like the River Killer, like the documentary on the Green River Killer, and they interviewed Bundy. And yeah, he fucking kind of looks like him for real, man. It's kind of creepy. And the kills themselves is like a stock in motion, and the kills are very sexual and sleazy at the same time because of the aspect of them with the females. And the supporting cast really dwells into this story because Jeffrey Lewis plays like this sleazy fucking lawyer who defends the killer's character. And it really builds off. Wilford Brimley's like the captain of the police force. And yeah, it really dwells in Charles Bronson's performance in this film is really well done with these group of side characters and actors that really build his performance. Another thing that's fucking awesome about this movie is its soundtrack. There's a lot of cheesy like 80s songs that play throughout the film. Probably the most notable one that plays throughout is the song "Look at Me." It's really cheesy and kind of has like a Journey-esque feel to it, like the way it's building. Kind of like it feels like it should be in like a Rocky film, but it's in like this weird like thriller with a serial killer killing women. So it's like, really, yeah. And when you listen to the lyrics, you kind of see why it's in the film. Really beautiful shot. J. Lee Thompson really does well directing this film. If I have any doubts with this film, I can't really say that it's a bad film. Maybe some cheesy like dialogue, and because it is like an 80s film, there is always like that cheesy dialogue. And Gene Davis's performance does get like over the top in certain scenes. That's the only things that I could think that I didn't like about the film. But fuck it, I wasn't bored 1 minute. The film runs like 140 minutes. Not 100. It's an hour and 40 minutes. My bad. And it's just fucking entertaining as all hell. And I really enjoyed this film, and I'm glad that I got the chance to see it finally. If I had to rate 10 to Midnight, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's just a fucking blast to listen to, especially if you're a fan of Charles Bronson. Fucking awesomeness right here. Good film right here. 10 to Midnight, 8 out of 10. Wicked awesome. Alright, guys, that's it I got for It Came From the 80s. I hope you enjoyed the review. I'll be back next week with another one. Until then, I'll see you then. Peace out.